Hi, Grandin Luthier Guitar Tech here in the Indianapolis area, doing a neck reset on a Gibson J185. And sometimes the challenge with these Gibsons is some of them, and I don't know what years and what models, but some of them, they glued the neck on without the fingerboard, and then they put the acoustic top on, which covered up the dovetail, and then they glued the fingerboard on, which can make a neck reset challenging because you actually have to cut the end of the fingerboard off to get to the dovetail, so you can cut away the top portion of the top that's covering the dovetail. This one was not that way, and it did have signs of a neck reset having been done before that was done poorly, and the heel was separated out. It needed a neck reset. And why I say it looked like it had been done before was some of the binding was sticking out on the side of the neck, that kind of thing. And I swear, looking at the 15th fret, it looked like it had been out. Sure enough, when I popped the 15th fret off, it had already had 3 holes in it from where it was steamed off the first time. However, this neck came off faster than any other neck I've ever done a neck reset on. This one came off in less than 2 minutes once I applied the steam to it. I mean, a minute, 45 seconds to a minute. And when I said that I thought it had a neck reset that was done poorly, you'll never guess what they used for shims. They used paper. They just glued some paper in there, and it doesn't even look like cardstock. They just glued some paper in there. So yeah, this neck came apart pretty quick. Yeah, when you have to shim it, you don't use paper. I prefer to use like hard rock maple shims. So anyway, we're going to get this one done right and glue it back together, but I just thought you guys would enjoy seeing that. Oh, also you can see dig marks in the heel where they just cut out a whole bunch, just chiseled out a whole bunch of the wood, but then didn't touch the outer edge. The neck angle is probably right on this one once I get it all glued back together, because it still had some decent, a decent sized saddle, but I mean, between the body and the heel, there was a gap. So that was interesting. But I just thought you guys would enjoy seeing, you know, paper used as a shim for a neck reset on a nice guitar. All right, we'll follow this one as I continue to do the work on it. I mean, look at the nice flame maple in that neck. You know, it's a beautiful guitar, but all right, we'll get it cleaned up and put back together. See you on the next one. All right, hey, carrying on here. Excuse me, I'm got a little seasonal allergies going here. My voice is shot. Carrying on with this neck reset on this big old Gibson Jumbo Acoustic is, as we saw when I took it apart, of course, somebody had done a neck reset previously and really messed it up and used paper in here. And the dovetail edges the sides here are really chewed up. So what I've got is, I use this quite a bit. It's a stick of 1/8 inch thick zebra wood, which is really hard and stiff. And I've got some 120 grit pressure adhesive sandpaper on there. So I'm just trying to get this to be level and flat and get all that junk, the paper and the old glue, and get it down to nice, flat, clean, straight wood, okay? When I've done this a little bit on both sides, I'm just finishing it up here, because they just really hacked this thing up, whoever did this before. And so I try to, when I come across this kind of thing where it's really been done poorly, is I try to make it right as best as I can. And yeah, that involves a little extra work. But, you know, in these situations too, when I, run into this kind of thing, I let the customer know, because sometimes it puts a delay in when I promised them to have it done. But I don't actually, unless it's something really bad where I'm really going to be into a lot of extra time, I don't charge them extra, because it's just a matter of you just got to kind of roll your eyes and go, well, like I say, if I run into an extra 2 or 3 hours worth of work, I may say, hey, look, this is what I found. And, unfortunately, it's going to take a little longer. But, typically when you do a neck reset, you do have to, in my opinion, sand these, get all the old glue gone from the previous neck reset or from the factory job if it's the first one. get a good flat, clean gluing surface, because if the surface is, got like this, you're going to have a hard time figuring out where the high and low spots are when you go to fit the neck into the body. Now, the other thing I'm going to have to do that is going to be hard to see here, I'll try to demonstrate it, is when they did the previous neck reset, this, well, it's better now that it's dried out. We'll see how it looks on the body, but this was kind of curved back, and there was a gap here at the bottom of the body. And that was one of the things that told me that a previous neck reset has been done, because there was no finish over the seam, and Gibson glues the necks on and then they spray the lacquer over it. So the fact that there was a seam showing with no lacquer over it, I knew this neck had been off before. All right, that's actually looking pretty good. I'm going to put a straight edge on it, and I've got a nice flat surface, no gaps. Good. Now I'm going to set this aside. And come over here, and I'm going to do the same thing with the body, okay? I'm going to tilt this up a little. I'll do this in a way that you can see what I'm doing. Get the camera here. Is, again, I want this surface to be flat and level, so I'm doing the same thing. Getting all the old glue and all the old paper out of there, so I have a nice, flat, straight gluing surface. As you can see, I got a big gob of paper there. You got to get that off. Sometimes with these, I typically have to change the paper quite often, to keep the sandpaper, to keep it nice and sharp. Now, when I first took the neck off, when this glue and the paper was all soft, I used a really good sharp chisel to get the bulk of it out, so I don't have to sand as long. Because if you let that glue re-dry and harden, it's a lot of sanding to get that out of there. It's too much. It's too much. So in this situation, I don't think I've broken through the glaze of the glue that was used. This may take a while. And this is another one of those things that you just got to go slow and take your time. If you try to rush, you're just going to create problems. All right, so the end of the sandpaper is getting kind of dull and loaded up. I may have to change it soon. But again, with these fine clearances on the dovetail, going with the sandpaper is slow because I'm just getting the dust out. But you don't want to go crazy and remove a whole bunch of material, because you end up with a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch gap between, because you just start ramming a power tool in there or something, you're going to be real unhappy. So it's slow and easy going. All right, let's just do the other side for demonstration purposes. Same thing here, just yep. This one will be easier, I think, if I do it this way. But whichever is comfortable, and then I'm going to have to sand this surface down. When I do, I'll tape off the top. And somehow when they did the previous neck reset, this piece was sticking out, and there's some veneer missing there. I'm probably going to have to glue some veneer back in there and then sand this surface flat. Because again, there was a gap there, and this was sticking out, so I need to try to see if I can't force this back in there, but we'll see how it goes. Alrighty. All right, so that's where we are with this. Again, I'll tape this off, sand it off, and then start fitting the neck in there. I'm just going to do a quick fit now to see how it looks. Now you see that neck fell right in there, and if I go to pick the guitar up, it won't. It's not bad though. I'm going to check it for a wiggle. Hang on, I'll turn it. So what we're looking for, see that neck fits nice and flush right now, and I'll try to get the camera up where you can see what I'm talking about here. Hang on. Hang on. I'm going to have to put the guitar down for a second so I can raise this up high enough where you can see down on the... Hi! what I said, I got a face made for radio. Isn't that what they say? All right, so when I set the neck down in there now, before, when they brought the guitar in, it looked like this. There was a big gap there where the neck was pulling up. Now I've got a nice, flat, flush surface. Boy, that looks good. But as you can see, the neck is loose. See that? Look. So I'm gonna have to glue some shims in there so that dovetail, when it goes down in, I can't pull the neck up. It'll be, see, I can lift up this way. I don't want to be able to do that. Plus the neck goes all the way down in. I don't want it to go all the way. I want it to stick up like that much, like a 30-second, so that, and not go any further, so that when I put the clamps on, it'll force it that last little bit and be really nice and tight. What I am gonna do real quick is to see where the angle is right now. So where it is right now is really nice. When I put this straight edge on and look down at the body, I'll tilt this down so you can see where the bridge is, okay? When I put the straight edge down the center of the neck, look at the clearance I've got over the bridge. That's almost 1/8 of an inch. See that? Over the top of the bridge. That's beautiful. If I glue this neck in right now, if it was tight, that would be primo. However, it's not yet. So now I got to glue some shims on the side of that neck. And interestingly, well, it is hanging over there. So I'm going to glue a 23 thousandths of an inch on the whole thing, because there you can see it's loose at the top. So I'm going to glue shims on both sides of the dovetail. Finish sanding this out because I still think there's a little bit of glaze on the wood. So I'll sand that out a little more. We'll glue some shims on. I'll show that process. Oops, and then we'll come back when we're ready to glue the neck in. All right, I've got the shims glued on. I have this, it's like 23 to 25 thousandths of an inch Eastern Hard Rock Maple veneer. I have several different, I've got Wenge and Purple Heart and Bloodwood and other veneers. But, you know, this is a maple neck. I'm using maple. I like the maple a lot just because it's a hard but commonly used wood. Anyway, so I cut a couple of shims to fit, and now I've got those glued in with these angled clamping blocks I made for doing just this. So I've got them all glued in, glued on. Now we're gonna let them sit for 24 hours. And then we'll come back and start sanding, trimming those to fit, because I made them a little bigger. And then start sanding that to get that neck to fit down in the pocket and glue it in. So we'll come back when that's ready. All right, got the clamps off on this old Gibson neck reset we're doing. So now I'm gonna take a good sharp chisel and carefully remove the excess wood, just a little bit at a time. I don't want to split down into the wood that I've already glued and then have to start over or have a split shim. So that's good. And I'll do the final touch-ups with the sanding block. And again, I'm putting the chisel in this way rather than that way, because when you do the flat side against the work, it tends to dig in versus the beveled edge does not. And I don't want this to dig in. Okay, and they're just a little bit long, so I'm carefully going to remove the ends. Again, the chisel should be sharp enough to go against the grain and not cause any issues. A little bit there, no worries though. Same thing here. Yes, I realize I'm cutting towards myself, but the neck block, the neck heel is protecting my hand. So as long as I don't get too crazy here, I'll be okay. Okay. Again, that's just in the excess wood that I'm removing, so I'm not worried about it. And again, I'll do the final with the sanding block. So this is still sticking up a little bit. Let's get that last piece down nice and level. Okay. Now, just for fun, before I get any further into this, I'm going to do a dry fit test just to make sure that the shims that I've added are enough. So I've got the body right here, so I should not be able to put the neck all the way down in. There, it's just, well, you can't see, sorry. It's just, let's try that again. It's just about a 32nd, the fingerboard is about a 32nd of an inch to off the top of the body. There's just enough of a gap there and a little wiggle. I might have to add a little bit more shim. Let's see if I get it all the way down in. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to add just a little bit more of a shim on the end. The top is snug. I cannot move the neck off the top, but I have a little wiggle down here where it's important. So we're gonna have to add a little bit more of a shim just on the probably the bottom third to the bottom, just probably on about the bottom third to the bottom half. Oh, my camera is tilted, so we got a little bit of the old Batman show going here. So we're gonna add another piece of shim on the very bottom third of this, and then try it again in 24 hours. See you in a bit. All right, for the next portion of this neck reset on the Gibson J185, I've gone ahead and sped these two pieces up, 3 times. So you can see the process. And what I'm going through here with this next section is the preparation to continue to sand. Now that the shims are glued on the neck heel, to continue to sand those and fit them and sand them and fit them and sand them and fit them, just taking less than a thousandth of an inch at a time to get it to fit perfectly, and fitting it in and checking it, taking it off. The other thing I did was, because there was some damage to the sides of the neck heel from the previous neck reset, and then as I was cutting it, I got a couple little chip outs that I had to glue back in. So I glued all that back in, did the finish touch up, and then before I wanted to glue it in, or before I was going to glue it in, I went through with the Super SLX dry sanding paper from 600 grit all the way up to 1500. And actually I used a 2000 as well. And then I took some rubbing compound and just hand rubbed it to get it to all polish back up. And it's just boring to watch that for the full time. So I shrunk that all down, including gluing the neck in. Because again, once it's fit, then it's just a matter of applying the glue. So, I sped it up so that you get through it quicker and not have to slog through, 45 minutes or more of the video. Watching that over and over and over, and I really didn't do any commentary during that time. So this is my commentary for that section, which is coming up right here. Don't touch that dial. Empty side, which is this side. A little bit more on the side. It's moving in the right direction, it really is. down with the clamps. There we go. Let's check it. That's it. That's 1,000. First with 1,500, and then with the 5.
fine on here. May not be big enough. Nope. We're not gonna be. Okay. That was something from Montgomery. Haven't we thought back? The street sat beside me and he dressed like 1950, kept on, however, since the long walk this hill. New saddles on the this was something like that. This was swing, you play here, we have to wait. And then we on the street, this way. You say, I'm the big people, I'm the big side. And they did it on, they just even down, you know, right? You say, well, you make those feel inside. This big stuff around the 40 tomorrow. That guy just said that, actually. You turn that car right? He said, this is where you get off, what? I'm gonna like all that. They tell me I look like Merle Hanger and sound a lot like David Allen Cole. And they brought me in the last time that we played in. Knew the words to every song I wrote. She said, Jimmy Rabbit, turn it on to my last album. Just about the time you might go. Yeah, Johnny Cash helped me get out of prison. Long as I get so that goes. I've been losing count for so long I can't remember. And I can do you every song Hank Williams ever wrote. And I can sing all down about Texas. I can't help it. I look like Merle Hanger and I sound a lot like David Allen Cole. But he got me DJ, all I got an outlaw. They never gonna see me this time. Well, I was there, got one, pull up out of here. Playing out, get out of here alive. Yeah, I'm not gonna hurt you, shoot me. She works in bank and she works in school. And she don't go, but don't step on board. I can get fine, listen to play. I can make love, but don't live. How long is it? How long is it? How long is it? How long is it? Don't get it done. How long is it? Give me ways to love like me. She don't get well outside me. I tell you which girl is my boy. Might be married on that needle or more. How long is it? How long is it? Right night, second night. How long is it? Don't get it done. How long is it? Just out the phone. Some call it late, some call it night. If you wanna call it, let me in my hand.
Oh, I see. We put this just below.
All right, checking back in. I have to apologize. I forgot to actually start the camera when I started this, but I have the neck, I got it all lined up. I've got it glued in, clamped, and all the excess glue wiped off. So now I just need to let it sit for 24 hours under clamping pressure. And to avoid, you know, pushing on any of the frets, I do have these blocks that I've made with different radiuses for gluing down fretboard extensions when doing neck resets. And I also did put a block of plywood on the back to spread out that clamping force and to prevent crushing any of the, you know, imprinting the foot of the clamp into the wood of the guitar, and then another clamp here. There was a piece that was sticking out, the binding was sticking out on the last neck reset. Somehow somebody, you know, one of the things they did was they moved something, that binding, and so I had to cut out a little bit of the wood behind the binding and then glue it all in, and I've just got that clamped to hold it in place while the neck is drying. So again, 24 hours with clamps, then we'll take the clamps off, check everything, let it rest for another 24, and then we'll start stringing it up and getting it ready to play. We'll come back when I'm ready to take the clamps off. Brandon here, Luthier Guitar Tech in Indianapolis area. Gonna take the clamps off the neck reset on this old Gibson, and let's have a look. Gonna pop the clamps off. Now I did, while this was, you know, my typical gluing process is while it was clamping up and there was glue squeeze out, I use a wet rag to clean up all that excess glue. So hopefully when I take the clamps off, I don't have to do any glue cleanup at all. So first thing I'm gonna do is pop this extension off. Now the big one. And yes, I don't need, but these clamps are strong enough, I didn't need to fully crank down on them. Just enough to get the neck seated where it needed to be. So I'm gonna take the two blocks off. Let's have a look. There's a little piece of glue there. I also did force this piece in more, so when the glue dried, it was not sticking out like it was before. Boy, this looks really good. Everything is where it needs to be. The finish touch-ups I had to do over here look good. All right, now I'm gonna check to make sure the neck stayed aligned. We're gonna check a couple of things here before I start putting it all back together. That looks really good. I got even spacing all the way down the edge of the fingerboard. Neck went on absolutely perfectly straight. It did not move to one side or the other. The last thing I need to check is to make sure that I have the clearance at the bridge that I wanted. So I'm gonna, let me bump this up. I'm gonna place a straight edge down the center of the neck, and it's up above, floating up above the bridge. I have a really good gap there. Beautiful. Now, it's been 24 hours since I put the clamps on, so I'm gonna let this rest for another 24 before I string it up. I do that simply because I don't want the glue to just be dry. I want the glue to be cured. I do not want to give this neck any chance to move at all. I don't want to have this customer in a year or 6 months saying it needs another neck reset. What did you do wrong? So, and I do that even when I'm building, when I'm gluing up neck blanks or gluing a top on a solid body or gluing the body wings on a neck through, any of that, I like 24 hours under clamps, another 24 hours without clamps at a minimum. And sometimes if I'm, you know, I don't have a deadline, I will let it sit for more than 24 hours after the clamps come off, just to, you know, again, I want that thing not just dry, but I want it cured. Same thing when people do finishing. They want to get into the, you know, wet sanding and cutting phase too fast, and they don't let the finish really cure, and then it burns and gets moved. So it moves because it's still semi-liquid. So anyway, gonna let this one sit for another 24, and we'll come back and finish the setup and glue the frets in, get it all ready to go. See you in a little bit. All right, last installment for this video of the old Gibson J185 that needed a neck reset and then a setup. Turned out quite well. There was some damage from some minor damage around the neck heel and the 15th fret from the previous neck reset that was botched. But it's all set up, cleaned up, ready to go. I've got the high E at 4/64 and the low E at 6/64, which is pretty much, it's a little under 4/64. It's about 3.5 64. So that would be so many 128. I'm not doing the math right now. On the high E, Then the strings are right perfectly spaced down the middle of the neck, not either side. I'm at 10 thousandths over the first fret on the high E and 15 thousandths on the low E. And I've got the truss rod set at just right at 10 thousandths. It plays great, sounds great, frets are all leveled. Joint looks really good. Now there was a little, from the previous neck reset, that piece of plastic cap here had quite a bit of damage on it, but I have filled that in just to keep dirt and moisture out. So it's all cleaned up, polished up. Not using a pick, but just my fingernails. But there you have it. So give them a call, let them know that this one is ready to go. See you on the next one.